Hello everyone, Dungeon Frog is here, and today we are streaming in English, as you might have listened. Yay! Because we are sitting on our second take on our new homebrew class for my, own campaign? I'm still working on it, and I was like, oh, will I say the name? I don't think so. The name is a secret for the moment, but it will be a steampunky campaign. And it probably will take another year, maybe even longer to finish it, but we are trying to get in parts with the time, and one of the parts is to design some homebrew classes, and the fighter one is the first one I'm creating, and I think it is a great opportunity to show what you could do in a D&D 5e steampunk world, because like you can use technology to your advantage, and that was one of the possible gap closers for a big problem, at least I have in D&D 5e, and that is like the discrepancy between material fighters and casters, especially in high levels in their utility department, because fighters stay kind of competitive with casters in the damage and the fighting compartment, but if you compare them to like what you can do outside combat, then the material classes have some disadvantages, and I mean, D&D 5e tries to fix it, kinda. Like Tasha's gave like another proficiency to barbarians, I think at level 3, and I think another one at a later level. But yeah, that's probably not enough, and I'm trying to fix this, hopefully a bit. And the Omnitoollant fighter class, and I will add this to the sheet pretty soon. Yeah, my English is great, and that's also like I'm totally sorry if you see like any mistakes in my English handwriting. I have no clue about writing things right in English. It's not like I actually did write some papers in like kinda in academia, but in English. But yeah, it's been some time, and I usually write it down and look up the words, so it might be a bit difficult. Hello, welcome, Kensai General. Oh, that's a cool name. We have the Kensai class out of D&D in my chat. Not sure if it's like related anyhow to this. But I actually have to say, I one of my players made a really, really great Kensai character in one of my arena events. I'm playing 5 times a week D&D, so play quite a lot with quite a lot of people, and we sometimes do like fun events. And like one was that they wanted to play like just an arena style type of game, like we get wave after wave after wave after wave of monsters, and they fight them just like not much RP, just pure fighting. And for me, it was a good time to try some out of my monsters for my homebrew world. So it was pretty cool to try this because like I could try my monsters out, and they were kind of scary. The monk subclass who has mastered the katana. Yeah, to be honest, I usually see Kensai monks with a bow. I think that's also the true potential. But I had like and he did a really cool build with a Kensai monk. I was really happy with what he built, because it was really creative, and if I see creative builds, I'm always happy. Like as I just said, like if you play 5 times a week, and like you have another totem of the barbarian bear. And he chooses like Great Weapon Master, Sentinel, and what is the last feat? Polar Master, of course. Yeah. So if you read this again, then you're like, Oh no, please not again. I heard the story like 10 times already, so... I guess Kensai monks are pretty cool. Nice to have you here. And I was talking about the conception of our wonderful class, and we did stream this last Tuesday, the first steps, and I will take some time to reiterate some of the things we talked about in the last week, and then we will work on it even a bit more. If you want to see the whole creation of the class, you can check out my YouTube Dungeon Frog, but not written together, and there you can see it. I think I've got some points for discussion through my players. They sent me some feedback what they would do with the class, and we will definitely talk about that too. And then we need to fill the class with some meat, I would say, because you see now, there is written a lot, but you can see the meaty part, what the different weapons do, is not done yet. So there is a lot of things to do for today. Arena D&D is a very good way to playtest your homebrew system, monsters, feats, etc. Yeah, I definitely agree. The player wished it, so I was like, yeah, sure, let's go for it. And then I was like, okay, then I can build the things in, and they can give me feedback on it. And I think they were pretty happy, especially with the boss monster I had. I think that was a really good enemy. I'm pretty close to a 5e, so there's not it's not big changes. I want to, like I said in the early, I want to change a bit the difference between material fighters and casters in the late game in between of utility. And I think what might change, but that's more because of the world. Because if you play in a steampunk world, you will have a lot of machinery going on, and I think you have your usual checks, which you do perception, investigation, and stuff. But if there are a lot of machines, you probably So what would you check if you make a check to look for a machine? And I think sure, you could go for investigation, for intelligence, history, maybe arcana if it's a magical construct. But I think often it's pretty smart to roll for tools, artisans tools, alchemy tools, woodcarving tools, maybe carpenter's tools, if you see some of the things. And I think that's a good change, because I'm running Dragon of Icefire Peak, and if I'm correct, I think in the whole book there is not one tool proficiency needed. So I think it's good to have tool proficiencies a bit more included. A master of the Calverian Pike host greets you. How are you? Master of the Calverian Pike host. I have no clue what you're saying, but I have a player who plays with a pike, and I like pikes. Pikes is a really cool weapon. It's like a glaive pretty much, and everyone plays with a glaive, because oh yeah, you can go Polar Master, but you can also go with a pike with Polar Master. So I guess it's cool, and I think pikes do piercing damage instead of slashing damage, so that's a big point for it. I guess, even if we don't have in our weapon blocks at the moment the thing. You are the leader of a mercenary company. Said mercenary company is the Calverian Pike host. Oh, that's I'm feeling in an RP world, and I think which is kind of funny, making these sections is actually something they do at the moment at the Unearthed Arcana. Unearthed Arcana, for those who don't know, is the play testing material we get in D&D 5e sometimes. And the kind of newest one does tease us with some factions. It's more like knightly bond, knightly factions. And they like yeah, you go like to be a squire. I think it's the English word. I have no clue about English sometimes. And then you can go to be one of the knights of one of the different factions, and you get feats in the way. So we might see this more often, to have like factions being feats, which is good and bad, I guess. I mean, I always like more feats, but bad in a way. It's like a bit focused on the world, so you have to adapt it always to your campaign. So it's interesting. My DM ordered me to flesh out my mercenary company because she wants to officially add them into her world. Yeah, that's definitely a good thing from you, DM, because I think it's always great to have like it's just an acknowledgement to your players if you like try to add things they do into your world. And I think like most of the time I do it like without the players noticing it, because like it happens in another game. So and then something happens, like someone would die, and she rolled like the only save who could save them like this, and that moment, which is usually pretty epic, is then in all of the other worlds too, and that's really cool. Like the players usually don't notice, but acknowledging them through this is like it's really cool, I think, because like their decisions should be impactful in your world, and that would probably be my biggest dream. Like I play 5 groups a week, and the storylines kinda play at the same times, but having like your own homebrew world, running 5 campaigns at the same time, and but in different locations, like having your homebrew world, like my homebrew world have like a big capital city. We have like a big swamp-like area, like a big foggy hill-like area. We have like a big industry city on the docks, and like having those people playing different campaigns in the same setting at the same time, and maybe influencing each other, like having like on each week starting like a newspaper and reading something like, oh yeah, the super cool guys, they did this and this at the docks, and then to get to know what happens in the rest of the world. I think that would be like a total dream. Super hard to make, to be honest, because like coordinating this old stuff could be hard, but this could also lead to some super cool opportunities, like meeting of the group to fight an enemy they both have, arranging like a Saturday or a Sunday where 2 of the groups meet and play together against someone. I think the idea is really, really cool. Hard to make, like I said, and definitely shit, because like if you have like 10 men in a group, yeah, you don't want to play this. Like that's stupid. D&D is not for so big groups. So you might actually separate them. That would be smart. Thinking like smaller groups again, but yeah, the potential is immense for this. And yeah, I would totally order you, Pikeman, to flesh out your mercenary band too. Like I think what is really important, and I'm sorry that I'm not typing because I'm trying to talk to you for a moment. What I think is really important, which I always give, like if you have an organization, try to give it at least a name, like what, and you did. I think you said it's Calvarine. Like have someone you are related to, like a best friend, a mentor, something like this, to have in your mercenary company, and he should of course have also a name, and that is always a good opportunity for DM to work with it. Probably have a crest or something like this. I really enjoy crests. I think like a visualization of things makes it easier, especially if you're like a mercenary company would maybe hide it, but having like a secret message, like a secret fist bump, would be a cool design aspect, I think. And yeah, your mercenary company probably should have like a goal, and you should be either like for it or against it. So that makes it pretty easy to make a good story here. I played 3 times a week, but we played a minimum of, yeah, that's a long time. You played, so you don't play anymore 3 times a week. I think, like, 3 times is probably the ideal. Maybe 2-3 times. I think probably the best for if you have anything else to do to play in a week. 6 hours are long. We usually play 3 hours. It's hard for me to prepare that much. Multiple character in one world in a different campaign sounds like a headache. Yeah, it's kind of. But it gives a lot of opportunities. So I will definitely, hopefully try it when the campaign is a bit further. Currently making their history and also their rank system. Oh yeah, that's cool. Calivir is a name of my grandmother, a middle name who has... Oh shit. I'm sorry for you. But that's also great. I mean, that you honor her through taking her name into your character design. I think that's really nice. We make it 2 times now, still 6 hours minimum. Yeah, it's tough because like we start at 8 p.m. at our time, so it's late. If we would play 6 hours, like everyone would have to go work the other day. So we would play like till 2 a.m. That would be tough for a lot of people. So yeah, kind of hard to make this like this. But yeah, thanks for joining me, you guys. Really nice to have you around me. But yeah, I try to look a bit at the homebrew class while still reading what you're writing. I definitely enjoy talking about D&D, like I do a lot of the times, to be honest. But let's switch over from my work document where you actually see some of the images, which I like. I see always this artist. They have like 4 pictures in the corner, and they look at it and say, "Yeah, I need this inspiration to think, to remember what I need to do." So I think like, oh yeah, I also have now 4 pictures, and this will inspire me. And I will talk about them quickly now, as I hopefully will switch to the right scene. I have no clue about working with computers. So, and I want to start with the same character I did start last time. It's Guts from Berserk, a pretty famous manga and anime, and the artist who made this great story passed away not so long ago, and everyone does not know what happens with him. And actually, Berserk is like one of the major inspirations for Dark Souls like games, like, and you can see it like if you watch the style of the Berserk weapons, armors, the atmosphere, you definitely will recognize the influences into the gaming series. And I think what I like most about Berserk is probably the conflict between good and evil, but like Guts is like the good guy kinda, and he wears like total black, and the good guys wear white. I think that's like I really like this, because like, yeah, usually the world is not black and white. So why I actually choose Guts is because for our Omnitoollant we have like pretty much let me look. We try to have like a weapon which transforms. So that's a good opportunity, because like we are in a steampunky area, we can have like more specialized weapon with probably some magical components like clockworks who run around and change the weapon. And in our case, as the Omnitoollant, we want to have it changed by random, because we like random classes sometimes. Some people at least do. And we throw dice to let them change. And I think this is definitely a possibility for your character, why it is like, why he has a weapon like this. And it leaves a lot of room to make your character. And as you can see, like, I think this picture is not bad. I think it's actually good. Like having those clockworks and you press like a button and then the weapon actually switches to another form. I think it's really good. I think in my like visualization, probably the weapon, if it did not transform, would be like a staff with clockworks on the top and the bottom, and the staff by itself, like out of many small parts with a button in the middle, and you press the button and then something with this staff happens. It changes, it forms, it might go out, so that you have two staff and can dual wield it. So that's pretty much the concept. And why I actually choose Guts is like because he sometimes kind of goes in this, like more animalistic style mode, like in this, in this transformed state. And I think that's a really good idea. What I think is the win in my eyes with the random spec weapon. Like if you roll at the moment the double 6. The not highly chanced roll, you actually transform into something which represents even more your character in combination with your weapon. Like Guts kind of melts with his armor and becomes more animalistic, but you can definitely change this up thanks to your fantasy, like becoming more machinal. If you were like into that, you could become more angel-like if you have like an angel weapon. So I think that's a really, really good point to have an option to make your character great. And thanks, Pikeman, for the follow. So that's why I think having the representation of Guts is really good. Then let's try to get some revision of our last session and see some of the influences. Someone I did not show on the last stream was Kite, from Hunter x Hunter, pretty famous, also manga, anime, and he actually has, as you can see here, actually probably the most inspiring, or maybe where I got the idea. He pretty much got a staff with a clown on it, and this skull can show a number, and he does not know which number it is, and it switches his weapon. And as you can see, he can transform it into a skite, which we don't see many weapons of him in the manga anime, but having something like this was probably the main idea, and I thought it will fit well into the steampunky area. We have Pianala, it's a magic card. By the way, if you don't know, Magic Gathering, it's a great card game, and I actually do play it sometimes, maybe even today, if we are fast with the homebrew class, I'm not sure. And the strange Cube event is still going on, which I don't have any clue what it is, but there is this Cube event going, and I like to play on Arena because people are bad there. So here we have Pianala, and it's not so much here about Pia, but I think what I really like is like the atmosphere in this card, the cloudy background with the distant seeming city, with the flying ships in the background. I'm really sad that Arcane used them. Because like I wanted to have like some zeppelins, but yeah, I can really use them nicely. So I might think of something else. But I think like the atmosphere is something I would imagine my capital city would look like in a nice day, in a nice morning when the sun rises and all the factory clouds are still blowing out. I think that's like interesting for the style, and I think Pia is also good clothed. I think like having a scarf in a very clouded area might be not the worst thing. Like masks to save you from the air, pretty much. It might be a good style, and having like some more machinery looking parts on you might be an interesting feat to have. So I think this is a good representation for how my world should look like. And of course we have the great Archmagus Belisarius Call out of the 40k universe. Really great character. I'm a huge fan of him, and yeah, I totally have to take him in with me to my inspiration, even if it's like 40k, no? It's like super in the future. But yeah, he is great, and I think the picture I have here on the right top represents pretty good like what the world could feel like in a higher level areas. Like if you're level 12 or higher, showing like that usually like as you go usually higher in levels in D&D, the world becomes grimmer and darker, and I think this shows really good how it could look like behind those fancy and nice facades of the city, to see, yeah, so what is rotting behind it, and yeah, like combining machines and humans is always an interesting feature, and it definitely inspires me in my world. So I hope you have now like a good, or at least a decent idea about the Omnitoollant, which is a work in progress name, so probably it will change up at some time. So in what world he lives and what for a class he will be. He of course will be a fighter, and he is a bit inspired by those wild magic classes. We have here the sorcerer wild magic with the random components, like they roll the dice and something random happens, and if they level up they get a bit more control about what happens randomly. And short disclaimer, I'm using here the community wiki from D&D 5e. Of course you should buy all the books, yeah, please buy them, because like having the books helps the artists, the writers, Wizards of the Coast, whoever, so buy the books, don't go on free content, and you can buy the books like physically, get them on Beyond, which is also now Wizards of the Coast, get them on Roll20, get them probably somewhere where I don't know you also can buy them, so you can buy them pretty much everywhere in many copies, and I actually do have some books, like twice, which is kinda like, not sure if that's so smart, but yeah, don't use free content, buy the books too. It's just easier for me to showcase things with the community wiki, because like there's everything on one page, and I can kind of make it a bit faster. Because like, yeah, like I have like 5 books on Roll20, I have like 5 books on Beyond, and I have like 4 books lying around here. So that's a bit, yeah, not easy to show. So I'm using this page, and I definitely can advise it to you, because like if you want to have a quick look over everything in D&D, just look here and then buy the book. So yeah, quick disclaimer. We are of course inspired of the wild magic classes, and we are inspired of the good fighter classes. And like one of the S tier fighter classes is the Battle Master, of course, and it kind of is our role model also, because like if you look at the class, what you see is like you got a description which we all also have. Probably have to overwrite it a bit, because like me and English, and then it got its feats, which actually does not have level 18 feats, which the new fighter classes get. You can see it's sourced in the Player's Handbook, the first book which is released. And so if there will be a remake of the Player's Handbook, which is pretty likely, we might see another talent on level 18, which would make the class even better, but who plays till level 18? Most groups not. But as you can see, the kind of good thing about the class is it's super easy to look over on the first look, and I like this cleanness, this this, like, you look on it and you can read it in like 2 minutes. You can't, but you can. It seems like you can like just look through it, play it, go on. And I think this design, making a good class, is really good. But actually, it's a lot more complicated, kinda, because you got those maneuvers, which is a lot more text, which you can choose from. But I think it's also still pretty good to use, because like you can learn, I think, 3 at level 3, and then you get in the later levels more moves. And I think that's like a good system because it grows with you. You have to choose once, and then you grow with those skills and can change them later. That's, I think, a good design choice. Making like the class not too complicated. And that's a bit a problem which I see in our homebrew class, which will definitely have this problem, probably, because it might be a bit complicated. Because, like, I know Rune Knight, a newer class out of Tasha's Cauldron from everything, it's also a really good class, probably at least A tier, probably S tier, and I never seen someone play this class. And to be honest, I also hate to read it. Like, and that's like a problem. Like, if you look at the rune carver feat here, you get at level 3. So yeah, you see. Do you see my mouse? I think actually I will make it a bit bigger for you, so that you can read it a bit better. I'm sorry. Greetings. Hello. Oh shit! Everyone's writing blue. Prevalence Performer. Oh, Prevalence Performer. Hello. Nice to see you here. We are working on our homebrew class, and this is part 2. I streamed part 1 last week, and we went just a bit through describing the class, my setting, and are now going through like inspirations from D&D 5e by itself, what we should care and what we should not look. And I'm seeing full homebrew. No, it's a fighter subclass. I will make for my homebrew setting for every class 1 subclass, in exception of the forbidden class, which we are not allowed to use in any free content. That's Artificer. This is not in the open DM license, so we can't use it. We are not even allowed to speak about it in any booked form. So I will make for every other class 1 subclass, which fits into the steampunky setting. I will show my list later. What else I've thought for subclasses. They might change, especially if we get 1 or 2 of them in some kind of form released. I think fighter subclasses need features which fix fighter base class. What features do you mean? I would be interested, because actually I actually trying to fix one huge flaw I see in material combat classes in comparison to magic caster classes in their utility department in the late game. So that is what I try to fix, and I think having a higher developed technology might make it easier to fix a bit the gap between spellcasters and material casters, because you can your DM also can give you like easier things, like you could have like a flying zeppelin or something like this, which helps you fly, even if our class probably at the moment gets flying on itself. You have like trains or other vehicles which could help you like getting through some of the points with mobility, with constructs and stuff like this. And this class is actually a class which is inspired by the Wild Magic Sorcerer and Wild Magic Barbarian. It's a random class, so we have a weapon which transforms randomly into other forms of weapon, because I think having a steampunk setting is a really good chance with all those clockworks to have a weapon which can transform it. And it will be a melee focused class in most cases, because it will have range options, but you won't have like much control over it. And we will talk about it a bit later. Are you making it good at range or melee more? Yeah, so probably more at melee, because the likelihood to get a melee weapon, even if you try for range, will be higher. I'm slowly making rogue class variant homebrew. I made it into half caster. Okay, half caster rogue. So you made an arcane trickster kinda, with a bit more magic. Interesting. Half caster. So let's think rogue half caster. I mean, you could say the ranger class is a half caster rogue. So, and you also would have the homebrew class of Mid Mercer, which is also kinda a rogue half caster. So could be hard to find a niche in between arcane trickster, the ranger class, and the blood hunter class from Mid Mercer, which probably will be never released officially, because like the rights lay on the DM's guild, and that by itself is again property of Wizards of the Coast, so it might be difficult to release it. But yeah, of course we will look a bit at the fighter class, and as you can, if you like to do math, like usually you try, as a base example for making damage assumptions, you go often out from a level 20 warrior with a +0 sword, having the champion mastery, because it's like pretty much easy to math it out as like a expected damage value a character should make, and you compare all other characters to that class. And that's why I think, and yeah, that's a bit of a problem, like, because if your class is the things which you are comparing things to, it's kind of biased, but I still think having the warrior is like damage-wise a pretty decent class in a fight, but utility-wise it could be improved by quite a lot. And they actually tried it a bit with some other class like the barbarian getting extra proficiency. Yeah, they gave it material versatility, but that's not enough, and we hope that we can fix this a bit. I think the power of spells is orders of magnitude higher than material ability so far. Yeah, in the utility department, I would definitely agree. In fighting, not so much. Fighting is okay most of the time. It becomes a bit harder if you have like more casters, because if they combine abilities, it becomes wonky. The DM has to get creative, but as my players know me, I can get creative with saving my boss monsters. Yeah, I guess everyone is having fun. So yeah, I was like on the Rune Knight, and the problem with the Rune Knight is like, and which will be a problem of this subclass too. You see the level 3 feat rune carver is super long. Like you got those cloud runes, fire runes, frost runes, then you got another feat, a giant might, and like most people hate to read through this part. It's too long. And our part will be probably even longer, because we will have to write out all the different weapons our class can use, and we actually might make it like this, like the Battle Master. We have like this, like having like a short description, and give like then look at the table, and yeah, there you can see all the details. And I think that's pretty smart, because after, if not, the class might get too overwhelming for players to look at. So yeah, having like this small part, then having the other feats, and then in the end having the table showing you all the contents you might get. I think that's a nice way to present it. And as I'm going through my tabs, because we might go later on it not, one of the questions we had in the last stream is, and that's still a difficult question, do we actually let the weapon, because like you will always use this weapon, and or you should, like that's the core of your class, or your identifying aspect, this weapon. So this weapon has to become at some point magic, because and that's a mistake they Wizards of the Coast does sometimes with features, that they don't become magic, and that's really bad, because like if you're coming to later levels, they will resist it. So at some point we need to give it the magic trait, and so that's an interesting thing, because like it's your weapon and it has to go magical. The question is like, do we actually treat it like the Eldritch, the invocation of the Pact of the Blade, giving it +1, +2, +3, even if the +1 and +2 and 3 is currently UA on different levels. And I think it's a good idea to add those modifiers to the weapon, because it once relieves some stress of the leveling process, because in D&D you only should find so many magical weapons, and usually it should probably feel a bit pressured that you don't have the resources you need, and it lets off the pressure a bit, because like if you have your magical weapon, someone else can get the magical weapon which actually drops. And I think it's fitting to the weapon, making it an easy to understand buff to also not make the class even more complicated. You can easily homebrew melee weapon into range weapon. Yeah, we could, but I'm not sure why we should do this. So I'm not sure. Like, yeah, although technically it would be not hard, but the question is what would it look like? I would focus on range fighter subclass. It's a lot better to play. I don't think like about playability. I think everything is playability and playable. And what actually matters is the storytelling you have together with your friends. The fights are like your shared story part time, and yeah, you probably die in my games if you don't play well. But I think it shouldn't be the core focus. And if you're trying to min-max, then yeah. I mean, you can read all the min-max build up, and you don't surprise me. So I wouldn't be like, yeah, we should go hard on that. But we should try to fit the flavor, actually, of this steampunky world with our classes, and try to make them good, but not OP. Probably A tier would be a good tier for classes, and they. Like if we look at Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is like the recent book with a lot of class additions, they did a really good job on most of those classes, making them good but not too good. In exception of the 2 priest classes, they are totally broken, and one is in my games bent, the other has to be nerfed. But other than that, they are pretty fine. And having like those A-class tiers is probably the nice spot to try to balance the class into, because it does not overshine other classes too much. A lot better to play ranged material in 5e. Yeah. I mean, like if you have 5 ranged material classes in a group, and I put you into like 20 feet cube square with flying tiny enemies who poke you with their rapiers, because they are Faith, and that's what Faith would do, like fly with their tiny rapier into your eye, then yeah, you probably would have a fighter in your group would with a melee weapon would not be bad. So that's like situational. Having I think having a melee in a group is not bad in most in most situations, and I think that's a problem which a lot of homebrewing people do. Making classes OP. That's, I think, a lot of homebrew classes I see. You see, they either don't follow the concept of classes, like having those steps which D&D does, so that it's consistent to the whole game, and just adding more stuff which is not relevant, and making them OP. And yeah, probably it might sound fun having an OP class, but I think it's not so fun in the end. A lot of to play homebrew based on story is not my cup of tea. I focus on playability. Yeah, I guess if you like that, there's definitely room for it. But I think D&D is not the best game for that. Like, if you want to play a competitive PvP game, then play Counter-Strike or Dota. Maybe chess. I think D&D is like, it's more of a role game in my eyes. Even if I really enjoy the PvP events we do from time to time, I'm having total blast with our PvP events. They're always really fun. And yeah, we played out. The last PvP event was super close most of the time, and it took way longer than I planned, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. So let's go on with our homebrew class. We will look at the weapons a bit later. I just want to go quickly through my sheet to show you what we got written down in the last session. So you got, I think you learned a bit of the fluff. We have some problems, like how to balance the multi-class balancing, because we get our main feature, the weapon transformation, on level 3. So it's front-loaded, that's typical for D&D 5e classes. We have to look a bit on multi-classing, but having those multi-class things is always usually the last step you should do. Check out how they interact with each other. We have maybe a problem because all our weapons will be finesse weapons, because fighters can use strength and dexterity. So you definitely have to take care of this. So that might be a problem, but later, to complicate it, I said this in the description before a bit. We solved actually the problem, what do we do with small creatures who are wielding heavy weapons, which is not allowed. That is that we give the weapon a trait to our main weapon, that it has finesse and maybe two-handed, I'm not sure about this, and a weight of 10 lb. So pretty much the rule we have in D&D 5e is that, and that's in a lot of games and real rules often, that specific beats general, and our general rule for our weapon is that it has the finesse trait. And if we don't put in the heavy trait in our great axe, then it is not heavy. So we will put the right traits in, and when we're not using it, we don't have problems with small creatures wearing a bigger weapon. How can we bring meaningful out of combat utility for material classes? We need to add some abilities for that in the later points, and we actually do see this in this class and also in the Battle Master, because if you look at it, it gets like fluff abilities on level 7, I think, and level 3. So we want to also go with it. One of the problems is we don't have the easy feat choice, which we usually have as a material class. We can't go Great Weapon Master, Sentinel, Polearm Master, which everyone does. because our weapons transforms into maybe a bow. So that might be a problem, but we can work on it because people have to choose other feats, and also the strengths of the feats are possible to make into our weapon transformation. Balancing how rewarding should the different weapons feel. We definitely want to make the weapons be stronger than their base components, because like there should be a reward to having them randomly acquired by you. So we need to find a good space that it feels good but not too strong. And we have to decide how strong our transformation will be and how weak our total fail will be. And yeah, that's points we need to ask. What do we do with even numbers? At the moment I'm thinking about rolling the random effects on 2d6 dice, which I probably will change into d12 dice. Here I asked, are 11 weapon types enough for the weapons? And one of my players gave me a good hint about this, which we will discuss later. Yeah, we talked about the magical weapon in the part before. We take the Pact of the Blade as a guideline. There it would be actually level 3, level 9, and I think it would be level 15, where you get the +1, +2, and +3. And that's actually the correct level ranges to reward the weapons earliest. So level 3 would be the earliest time you get a +1 weapon, level 9, maybe 8, where you get a +2 weapon, and level 15 for a +3 weapon. So we try to stay with it, but we have a small problem, because the fighter actually gets its feat on level 10, so one level later. But I think it's still worthwhile. So the feature is the level 3 features at the moment. We roll 2d6 at the beginning of our turn, and for that turn we create the weapon, which transforms into another weapon at the beginning of our next round. And at the moment we have like 1-1 is a total fail, your weapon becomes unusable, and you can also can't drop it. So you have to deal with it, and then we get some interesting weapons, like the axe, the sword, the glaive, whip, the bow, the gun, sword and shield, hammer, a dual-wielding melee weapon, the win button you transform into something cool, and then we have some weapons which we did not bring in, at least not now, but probably will add later. And I was thinking like about dagger, lance, crossbow, throwing weapon like boomerang, a net, a trident, and even maybe some more fancy weapons like some way of power claws. And we probably should get a Fluff-Fähigkeit or ability with probably tool proficiencies, 2 of our choice I just mentioned. They should be a bit more important in my setting than usually 5e settings. Then we get another setting or trait, reliable talent, we know from the rogue, which makes us all our dice which are under 10 go automatically to be a 10, and we also could get the first extra damage weapon feat. I think it's a bit weak, but it's also not bad. It's fast, like to read. And if you compare it to the Battle Master, it's okay, I guess. But we might improve it. Then we get on level 10 at the moment the weapon count as a 2+2 weapon. And we pretty much can transform our weapon into a flying device, which lets us move with our movement speed while we are not using it in combat. So we again we get a utility feature and a combat feature. I'm still not really happy. I think we should even add more fluff to the class, like more utility aspects, but I think it's not a bad way for the moment. Then we get at level actually we probably should weapon count as a +3 move here. At level 15, the typical wild magic, wild barbarian feature, which gives us some choice about what weapons we want to use and where. And with that, we have the ability to roll dice twice and choose one of the examples. And on level 18, I want to have pretty much the half-orc feature that if you don't get killed, you drop to 1 hit point and transform into your super lucky form for 1 round. Can't use it unless at a long rest, and you get an exhaustion after the combat. So that would mean, and our transformation, and which is actually fitting, because like in most cases I imagine the transformation will be making our weapon into our armor with it, that we actually need to get temporary hit points. This will be definitely a crucial part, getting temporary hit points, because because if we would not give it temporary hit points, then this feature might not give us much, because then we could just drop again. But our weapon is kind of shielding us with its power, and we are becoming one with the weapon. And I think that will let us maybe survive another hit, or 2, or 3. So one possible way would be, because we have to actually use it in our transformation on always possible. So if you roll a 12, you always get this. So we need a scaling mechanism. And my first idea would be to give it fighter level times 3. So that would mean we get 3 temporary hit points on level 1. Or like the first time you could use it would be 9 on level 3. And we would get 60 temporary hit points on level 20. That's quite a decent chunk of life, 60. Like, I think a wizard has around 80-90 on level 20 on an average case. So you pretty much get a lot of life. If you cast False Life, it's probably the biggest temporary life buffer. I think it gives 10 HP on level 1 and 5 HP per level. So we get level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 8 times 5, 45. So pretty much worth level 9 spell. Kinda. An upcasted level 9 spells. I think that's a good point to be in. Because like 4 would be too much. I think it would be too much. Times 4. And 2 would be not enough, because like 40 damage on level 80, that's probably another hit you can take. Probably, yeah, that's or like 2 hits. You probably will still die at the same round, and then we can't really play out with this feature. With 60 life, we should be fine, kinda. And we also get other things, like, and we have to think about it. So I got some suggestions from my players, and I'm sorry, they are actually sometimes in German because I write them down as I hear them. So actually, they maybe want to have more choices to make it a bit less random, and to actually make a selection of weapons. And I think that's a good idea. Because at the moment we have like those 12 weapons, and we have a lot of weapons which I might like to add, like the dagger, the lance, the crossbow, which would be extra numbers. But what if we make like the 1 and the 12 is fixed, and the other 9 numbers you can choose actually. Like you can say like, okay, I want to have the axe, the sword, the dagger, the lance, then the bow, and I want this on the 2, this on the 3, this on the 4. I think this would help out the class design by quite a lot. To make it, yeah, to actually give the player a bit like a chance to make it more into his class or her class, because you can take out some weapons which you don't like. You still have to probably take some which you don't like, and yeah, the bad thing is people will definitely would probably make like a tier list and saying, yeah, okay, but the feature of the dagger is way better than the feature of the net, so you always should pick the dagger. Yeah, but people will do in today's day this is the modern age. People will do tier lists for everything, because like in today's world we try to optimize everything and forget the meaningful things, but yeah, I guess we have to live with it. So yeah, this is a bit of a downside, but I think the general idea of having more freedom in choosing your weapon is great. So actually I think we should definitely adapt this into our class. So we would have to rephrase it a bit. Into a form which yeah, I don't know how we would rephrase it. I actually would have to think. We definitely have to also look how the 5e languages spells things, because like 5e has like a clear setup how they make wordings, so it's really clear in their kind of way how they describe things, and we definitely should check this out too. So let's think about we have it might and we have to actually phrase it that it won't sound too complicated, but we actually will make all the weapons in one of our transformations. So we get one for the dagger, the lance, the crossbow. I will stay with the boomerang for the moment. I think a mechanical boomerang also can have the returning feature. We already see the returning feature as a invention. Is it called invention of the artificer class? So we can definitely work this into it. We try to make a net. That could be a bit complicated because nets don't have damage dices. But they do have a damage type associated, so we might be able to do something. We will do the power claws and the tridents. Maybe we will do more weapons. I think if you have any idea what weapon I'm missing, I would definitely like to hear about it. The question is like crossbow. We have like hand crossbow, we have light crossbow, heavy crossbow. Do we want to bring them all into it? I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking about Monster Hunter at the moment. There you have like a light crossbow and a heavy crossbow. And the light crossbow is more like, I think it afflicts effects more, and the heavy crossbow is like a big shot. So there might be room for making more than one crossbow, and it would help to maybe make a more ranged focus class of this class, having the crossbow, the boomerang, the light crossbow, the gun, and the So how many weapons would we have in a range department? 1, 2, 3. You could technically count the net as the 4th, the whip as the 5th, the bow and the gun. You have then 7. The 8 would be the 0, 1, 1. The 9 would be the transformation. So you would have 3 melee options, which one could be the sword and shield, which is more a defensive one. Yeah, you kinda could make it. You kinda could make it kinda full range class. We would have to add at least 2 more weapons. Not sure how which we would add. We could make 2 hand crossbows or different types of guns. Because like actually we find different types of guns in our D&D book. Like the musket, we have like a gun. We have like a usual gun. We have some more guns. We could make like this. I'm thinking about it. Thank you, King, for your sub. You earned it today. Earn it tomorrow too. Tomorrow. Yeah, I will try to do my best to hopefully stream a bit more often. But yeah, you have to have the feeling to stream. So thank you a lot for your support, for being always here. And if you have an idea for a cool weapon which would fit into a steampunky setting, I'm definitely open at the moment for ideas for our weapons, because actually one of my players gave me this great idea to actually make a table of things, and the 1-1 and the 12 will be the same, but the other 9 possible combinations will be able to be chosen by the player, and they will get like 15 options. They kinda can customize in which weapons his weapon should transform. So I'm definitely open for weapons. Then I have written down here, sorry, in German, because I write it down when I have my sessions, to have the ability to actually forcefully choose the weapon you want to have, like with prof bonus wise. So from 2 to 6 times. Not sure about this. We can look at the Wild Magic Sorcerer for that later, because it kinda has an ability to forcefully trigger the Wild Magic search, but yeah, the point is, and that is an interesting point in this class, do we, like, how much choice do we actually want to give the player over what the random aspect will be? And that is what brings us to our next point. If we stay with the 2d6s to count our results, or we go for a d12, or if we even go to a d20 and the 1 and 20 make even stronger. And I think the d12 idea is probably the best, and listen to me why I think making the random aspect of our weapon transformation in those different weapons with a super form on level 12, on a 6 and 6, or on 12, or on a 1 and 1, a bad outcome, why it's good to maybe make it on a d12 and not on 2d6. Thank you, Kerkat, one of my players, who did mention this to me. And I bring you back to the other scene. I hope we will see it, because actually it has to do something with probabilities, and we have this graph which shows us the probability. Do you actually see what I show you? Yeah, you should. So I bring you a bit closer on it. So here on the right, we see the probability to roll with our 2d6s the numbers. So yeah, we have 2 dices, and that's the probabilities to get each of the rolls. And what I like about this, about having 2d6s, the chances of rolling a 1 or like a double 1 and a double 6 are the least likely, and they're pretty unlikely. So that's good, because you should not get punished too often, and you also should not get rewarded too often, especially like in earlier stages of the game. So because like I think the transformation still should feel like something special, and so I'm happy about this, and that's good. But what you actually see is that, you see it here on the diagram pretty well, that we have like a big belly in the mid. Actually, it looks like is that a Normalverteilung in German? I have no clue. Normal line? I don't know. Normal. You know what I mean? Like Normalverteilung. So, and usually this is good if you have a statistics program and you work with your data, and like one of the first steps when you work with data is to look if you have your data like this, because it actually if you don't, some of the usual rules you use in statistics don't work. But in this case it's actually a bit bad, or it might be a bit bad, because the weapons we have on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are far more likely to occur. And so that's interesting. So we could... So actually new players probably, or most players probably won't think anything when they see this double 6s. So they would not care. But like if you would make a guideline for this class, then you would say like, oh, okay, so the weapons you actually want to see more often, you put them into the slots 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because that's the weapons you will see more often. And you kind of give the players more choice about what weapons he wants to see. And to be honest, this fits thematically actually not unwell into the class. Because like, imagine you're having your player character, and usually he would be like, because like random players who play random classes are usually a bit like, they like to have this randomness aspect. They're usually pretty good players, I think. So they, but their character will probably have like, and that's pretty normal, have like preferred weapons or unpreferred weapons. Because I mean, like, you probably like more the skite over a dagger, because like it looks cooler to have a skite in your hand. So you would give them the ability to make this more likely. But I think it's still the worst choice. Because I think in a random class you should emphasize the random aspect of the class. And feeling that you don't get the right weapon in the right moment, I think that's a part of the class. That's what you're buying when you're playing a random class. So if you play the Wild Magic Sorcerer, you know in one of 50 cases you will transform into a plant which sits around and will do nothing. Or you probably kill your group with a fireball which you shoot into your group. That's what you're in here. And I think it's fun if you are in melee combat as a fighter with your, I don't know, glaive, and then your weapon transforms into a bow, and you're standing there and are like, oh shit. Okay, So I'm standing next to the enemy. Okay, you might not if you have the glaive before, but if you would have a greatsword. I'm standing right next to my enemy. I have disadvantage on my attack rolls. What do I do? And I think that's good. I think that's actually because a lot of players try to avoid difficult situations, try to make everything perfect, but the greatest or a lot of great RP moments do not come from success, but from failure. And a lot of memorable moments come because people fail something really shitty. And that's a good component in a D&D game. So I think it's nice to actually make it more random and not give it a biased selection on weapons. And of course, you can actually counteract it. Like, you could... So if you really fear that you would have the problem, you could try to get out all of the ranged weapons from your build, which we should actually look at. I would try to not make enough melee weapons, that you at least have to have one ranged weapon in your selection, so that you have those situations. And you're a fighter. You attack twice. Later, on level 11, you attack 3 times. Later, on level 20, you attack 4 times. So you have a lot of moments to attack. And if you really fear the moment where you actually switch from your melee weapon into the bow, take the mobile feat. Pretty easy. Because for the mobile feat, you can disengage without getting an opportunity attack. And you have to attack with disadvantage. But the good thing about the mobile feat is you don't have to hit the target. So even if you miss him because you're attacking with disadvantage, no problem. You still can move out and make your 3 shots from a range. And then you have to think like, okay, what if I get the melee weapon in the next turn? So am I able to get in again? And having this strategic decisions to make, I think it's really, really a good thing for the class. So I would run a poll now. What do you think would be the better spread of dices? Do we go for 2d6s? Do we go for 1d12? Or do we go even for d20 and make the 1 and 20 even stronger? And don't let the players make decisions what weapons he wants to have in his pool, but take 20 weapons and put it into the pool. But we are not enough people here right now. But thank you all for being here. Big thank you, and thank you everyone for who might watch it later. And I would definitely like to hear your opinions. What would be the better spread? But for my part, I think having the d12 is the correct choice. And as a DM, you always can make choices which I would not agree with, and I probably would not agree with a lot of rules people make, because I'm probably a purist in a lot of cases. So yeah, so you have the choice, and that's another suggestion of one of my players was because actually this is kind of a hard choice to make if you want to have the 2d6s or the 1d12. Make an optional feat. As you can see, like, we are going back to the fighter class. We have in the fighter class now optional feats. And we could actually write it down into our class, call it like combat or tool versatility. Oh yeah, we just copy the words here, and make it like optional tool versatility. Instead of rolling d12, you can roll 2d6s. because this makes it more likely to get your weapon of choice, or you roll d20 to make it even more random. I find this an interesting idea. It might be, in my case, probably more like a synopsis, like a PS, personal note in the end, because we don't have at the moment those optional rules in class description, in subclass descriptions. And I think for the better understanding of the class, it's also smarter to not put optional rules in subclass. Because I think because then you could argue that you should make this for every class, and that might be a mess. Could change the balance by a lot. So it would be like an end note to let those things happen. But I think it's still a good idea. And one problem with the D20 would be, like, we would have to buff the 1/1 or nerf, and buff the 6/6, the transformation ability, to make it like fitting to the unlikeliness to roll it. And that would be a problem, because like we would need also an optional extra description to explain how we, like how those two rolls would roll. So we might add it, but I think we will stay with the D12. With the D12, with a choice of selections. And yeah, I think that's the best case. And if you have any opinions, I would love to hear it. By the way, as I'm on this page at the moment, just want to quickly showcase someone I like. That is Shadiversity. He does super great YouTube content. I can definitely advise you all to watch him. He does a lot of how's it called? He's like looking video game myths and try to adapt those video game aspects into the real world, how they would affect the world, and how things would turn out. And he does it. I mean, of course, we all do mistakes, but he does it in a good way. And can definitely everyone advise to look at his channel. Great guy. And yeah, he might be actually why I use the power claw in my weapon description, because he just made this video. And I love Warhammer 40k. I also love the old school Warhammer. But yeah, I think having a fist weapon in D&D 5e is a cool thing. Like, having more weapon options which are viable would be a good thing, because like a lot of the throwing weapons are also sadly not that viable. So yeah, check out Shadiversity. Great guy. He makes cool content, and probably a lot of my ideas, how I value things, also come probably from his videos. Because like if he says like you can't shoot the bow if you're on the tree in this and this angle, and he sits there with his bow on the tree, and I see that he has problems to shoot with his bow, then if my player asks me, then I will also ask him the same question. So I think he's like a good bar to see what is real in your games and what is possible and what is not possible. So big shout out to this guy. So let's just check out, as we are still here. It has actually the special trait, which is okay, here. The net has actually a special rule, which we will read now because we try to not forget it. a larger or smaller creature hit by a net. So we can't get huge or gargantuan sized creatures, which is a problem. Hit by a net is restrained until it's freed. A net has no effect on creatures that are formless. Okay, that makes sense. But we could make it, because like we have technology and magic. We actually could make it. Catching formless enemies? Or creatures that are huge or larger, yeah, like I said. A creature can use an action to make a DC 10 strength check, a really low strength check. Not hard to escape, especially if you think that D&D monsters probably tend to have higher strength on average. Freeing itself or another creature, so you can save someone else within its reach on a success. Which is interesting, within its reach. So reach is actually an interesting thing to talk about, because like if we read quickly the reach aspect of a weapon, this weapon adds 5 feet to your reach when you attack with it. So your reach will be still 5 feet because of this description, even if you wear a glaive. I would say so, or? Because you need to use an action and not an attack. Yeah, so probably it's still a plus, probably 5 feet range. Also, even if it's unlogical, I mean, because like, no, is it unlogical? I don't know. Can you cut a net with your glaive without hurting your friend? Maybe if you're a good fighter? I don't know. Did anyone fight with a glaive and try to cut a net? And the net, you must imagine, has a DC 10 strength check. And I think we would think that an average person or an average hero has a strength of 8. Maybe 10. And an unusual citizen has a strength like 4? I don't know. 6? Yeah, so it's a bit hard to say how so an average hero would have a 50-50% chance to open it. Pretty much. Can we cut it with a net? Hard to say how hard the net would be. Let's go on. Ending the effect and destroying the net. So actually, in my eyes, I think we like put our hands on the two sides of a net and just push it open, so that it gets destroyed and the person in it can escape. So can we do with a weapon? Let's read on. When you use an action, bonus action or reaction to attack with a net, you can only make one attack regardless of the number of attacks you can normally make. So that's only, usually only matters for warrior. So, but what we can... Oh! We can destroy it, dealing 5 slashing damage. Okay, I did not say nothing. We just need to do 5 damage. So that's the hit points. I didn't say nothing, sorry. So the AC is 10 and you can attack it. Then you would also can be able to attack it with a glaive. So we should definitely have this in our back mind if we design our net class or net weapon. Also here to the lance, because it's a special weapon, you have disadvantage when you use a lance attack to attack a target within 5 feet of you. It requires 2 hands to wield when you aren't mounted. That's not a problem. Our weapon's always 2-wielded at the moment. Not sure if it will stay like this. So, not a problem. Our weapon also counts as two-handed even if we dual wield it. No, we probably should then change the description. Yeah, we got some stuff to do, but pretty much it got the disadvantage part of ranged weapons. Oh, by the way, one of my player said something, what about improvised weapons? If our weapon breaks, do we get anything as an improvised weapon? I think we don't add it to the base class. I think if you worry about this, then get the Tavern Brawler feat. Get a level in Monk. I think there is a fighting style which you could use in the fighter tree. By the way, the fighting style feat, I probably would buff it with a +1 ACI. So choose a fighting style +1 stat to make it more in line with newer feats. Yeah, I think if you worry about this, you have to fix it on your own, and not the base class has to do it. So that so far to the improvised weapon. Here the whole throwing part we don't need to really care, because all our weapons will have the finesse property. So do we need to... Oh, what about the loading property? That's actually an interesting point. No, it's actually not an interesting point. I was thinking like... Because we change the weapon every round, so it kind of disappears and reappears in the beginning of your round. And then it always has the amount of attacks you can make. We might actually have to phrase it. And we might actually have to give a number on bowls. Because like a warrior can make 4 attacks. If he is hastened, he can make 5 attacks. If he uses action surge, he can make 10 attacks. So he probably would need at least 10 bowls. Can a warrior get more than... Yeah. No. Can a warrior get more than 10 attacks? He can. But not with our weapon, I think. So he could get more than 10 attacks if he attacks with his bonus action. If he would be dual wielding or having some class feature. Then he would be able to make more than 10 attacks. Or if he would even, I think, dual wield head crossbows. That probably would also mean that he could make more than 10 attacks. Is there another way to make him attack more than 10 times? Yeah. There are certain things. Like there is a priest domain who has like, if you cast an enhancement spell, I think, on your teammate, he can make with his reaction 1 attack on an enemy he can see in its range. So we probably have to write down on all our ranged weapons that it has 20 ammunition, and that it does not load. Which it does not do at all if it does not have the loading property worded, so we just don't add it into the weapon. So I just write it quickly down so that we don't forget it. 20 ammo, just write it down. If your warrior does make more than 20 attacks in a round, then I guess you broke the system. Congrats to you. I'm happy for you. You need to kick him with your last attack. So I think getting 20 shots might be interesting. So there's another problem. Because you actually have to You actually have to phrase it that those ammunition also despawn with the end of your turn. Or no, with the beginning of your next turn. Because if you would not do this, then you could just create bolts or arrows all the time. And that is actually another problem. we know we have those min-maxers all in our groups, and the rule judges and the people, and they're a good rule judge. Like if they try to be neutral, then it's really great to have a rule judge who can help you out as a DM. But there are a lot of kinds of rule judges who are a bit more on the harder side to deal with. So problem is we have this special form, which is super strong. And we will definitely have this player who says like, yeah, but wait, let's just wait till I get my super special form and then we start the fight. Because then I'm super imba. Maybe it will take me 1 to 10 minutes to get to this form. But that's okay, team, right? The enemy will wait for us. I mean, they are standing right in front of us. Let's wait a bit, okay? And yeah. A lot of players will say this, and you as the DM will stand there face palming and are like, yeah, that is what the game did intend to do here. You probably should take first a long rest. I mean, you're standing right in front of the enemies, but your resources are not full. Better do a long rest. They will wait for you for 10 hours. No problem. Yeah. So actually, we have to rule this out. The question is, how do we rule this out? We can rule this out for the ammunition, in that we say the ammunition disappears at the beginning of your round. Then you still could technically give the ammunition to another mate for the round, but because the weapon is magical and not the ammunition, I think it wouldn't matter if you could give it to someone else. You might try to trick a merchant, but as this thing as the arrows would last like 5 seconds, the vendor probably would notice it, that they're disappearing. So we would solve this like this. But what do we do with min-max Andy, who wants to wait as long as he can start the battle with his super form? Just quickly bring us to my Word document, where I was just writing down. So what do we do with min-max ND? So one solution would be, and this is an interesting solution, that you would get exhausted. That you would get exhausted after transforming into your super cool form. It's a big downfall. Getting because it should feel rewarding to transform into this super guts form, or into it should be rewarding. And we know a class, the Berserking class from the Barbarian, who has this reckless rage, which lets him get exhausted after his rage. And with this rule, the Berserker class sucks. It's sadly not a good class, because you trigger too fast exhaustion, and it's too detrimental, especially if you play the game like you should play it, not letting your players rest every 2 minutes. It's actually really hard. If you tried it, if you went to bed, slept for like 6 hours, and then do something 5 minutes and then try to sleep again, it's not that easy. Especially if you try it like 2-3 times in a row. So, yeah. Making him exhausted. I mean, the chance is not high to roll a 12 on a d12. But it's also not impossible, especially later, if we either get the double choice form, or if we get the forced form if we go down. Which also has at the moment the exhaustion part, because I think this is like a desperate moment, then it fits to be exhausted after it. Because you went down, you're exhausted after it. I think in that moment it's fine to have the exhaustion rule, but in a normal combat it is a bit tough. And I have actually a Berserker in my one of my groups, a Berserker Barbarian, and I'm still not sure how I would fix the class. We have at the moment a rule that he has to make a Constitution save after each of his rages ends, and if he fails it, he gets a level of exhaustion. And the more often he rages, before a long rest, not sure if it's long or short rest, the more often he rages, the harder the DC becomes. So I think we start on a 14, and then we go 2 up with every rage after that. And that might sound high, 14, but you must know Berserker always have proficiency in Constitution saves, and he usually has some usually you want some Constitution as a Berserker, as it gives you life and armor class. So usually you have at least 14, maybe usually even 16 Constitution, and in later stages even more. So keep this in mind. And I'm not sure if I'm that happy with this solution, but we're trying it out, and so far it's okay. And we could make a rule like this. Does fighter have strength and con as a proficiency? I think it does. So we could let him roll a con save with increasing difficulty, but I'm not sure if this is the best choice we could make. So it would definitely help. Well, okay. Min-Max Andy would say, yeah, but I did look at the monster manual. This monster has 131 hit points. I did count how much damage I do on average, so we definitely should kill it in 1 turn. No problem, okay? So, I don't care if I'm exhausted after that. I just need a plan for 1 round, because I wrote it on Reddit. You know, Reddit for cool. Oh, that was German, sorry. Sorry that I'm also making some joke about Min-Max Andy, but I have a lot of them sometimes. So, yeah, he might argue that that's okay. Because if he would play with me, he would probably die. But, so... yeah, I think the increasing con save DC is an okay way to solve. Is 14 a bit high? Fighters have a bit less usually Constitution, but it's but it's also less likely to trigger, so it might be okay. Increasing con save 14 plus 2 per transformations, and as you see this is not the end spelling. This is more like a yeah, more or less we were making our thoughts and then we later transfer it into real language, kinda. We just want to try to make this class. So we are thinking about our big transformation on our random class. At what point we roll a 12 on our d12 and we will get one with our Omnitoollant weapon. The weapon shapes into ourselves. We get to in a form like guts on the one of the pictures I have here on the right, and then we do some crazy things. And one of the crazy things, which is not that crazy, is that we get a lot of temporary hit points. Cause like we have now a cool armor which protects us. Now we are making a rule that our min-max ND does not go on our nerf as a DM. And I don't have the perfect answer, but increasing the con save 14 plus 2 per transformation. Reset, long rest, short rest. Warriors usually reset on short rest most of their ability. That would make it a bit harder for min-max Andy. So what other possibilities would we have to punish someone who tries to force the weapon he wants and makes the group wait? So one way would be make the double one roll or the one roll more punishing, but I don't think that's good. I think having your weapon pretty much be unusable for one round is enough of a pain. People nowadays really hate when they are punished in games. They pretty much want like, oh, you paid the money for the game? You should definitely win it. So that's a lot of players' mentality. Yeah, but I think it's good if they put some effort in it. So there would be an impossibility which I don't like. We could do some ability check, but that probably will make it only more complicated. I think the increasing con save is the best thing at the moment. Increasing con save per transformation. If fail, then level exhaustion. And I think it's still fitting, because if you transform into like a super being, it should be exhausting. Even if I have to say, like, exhaustion is a really hard effect in D&D 5e, because it's really hard to cure it. So it's an interesting effect. So I'm happy at the moment with it. This helps random Andy to not make our game miserable. So do we have now all the things and can go to configure our weapons? So give you a quick look. I already talked about this twice, I think, about the other level things you get with level 7, 10, 15, 18. At the moment, they're not finalized, and I'm still not happy with them. I think what we are missing is more utility aspects. But I'm not sure what we could add there. But if you have any suggestions, I would love if you give it to me. I just look quickly on my suggestions list, which I got from my players. I think I talked about all the features. Just one thing about the actual class design, about the concept of the style, which I found interesting. One of my players had the idea, which I found interesting. As you like your weapon transforms with you, or your weapons transforms on the beginning of every of your turns into something else. What if you play a shapeshifter race and you actually shapeshift with your weapon? I think that's a cool idea. Like if you transform into if your weapon transforms into an axe, your character transforms into an orc. I think that's a cool idea. Like, and that's just great. Like, if players have ideas for your design of a class, which seem to be like you did not see this in a game before, then it's good. I really, really enjoy this. I mean, of course, I have great players, but it's good. I think having classes which helps you imagine things is really a great thing. So that's to the concept. We will definitely write something better to the concept. Probably my English sucks also too here, but yeah, we will try to make it better. So before we go to the meaty part of our class in giving all of the weapons, and we have like a lot of weapons now on our list, some different features, some meaningful features. Before we go to this, and with that we probably will finish the class after we make another feedback round and then go into playtesting. Do you have any suggestions, any questions, any advices about the class we have so far? And if you watch this later, write a comment, write me a DM, whatever. I would be super glad to get feedback on this class, because it's really hard to make good classes in D&D 5e. And I would be really happy if my classes will work out well. So I will take a 2-minute break, and maybe you can write something down if you have an idea, which we could discuss after it. And after that, yeah, I come back and we go on. So see you in a minute. Okay, so I'm back after a little stretch break, because I think like a lot of people say like, oh, you shouldn't sit too long and take a break from time to time to stretch. So I did try to do that. I'm not sure if it works, and I'm still interested in those standing tables. I never used one. I'm not sure if I want to use one, but it's definitely an interesting idea. Okay. So